The sudden task the ship smelled like oil, sweat, and burning wires. Humans called it the freight claw, a cargo hauler used to transport all kinds of creatures, dead or alive. Jace, a quiet maintenance worker with grease on his hands and no medals. On his chest was sweeping deck 6 when the loudspeaker barked his name. Jace Harlow. "Report to Bay 12 for cleanup," the voice said, cold and bored. He sighed, wiped his face, and grabbed his cleaning gear. Every time they made a supply stop, someone dumped a job on him. But this one felt different. The voice had a strange tone. He made his way down the narrow hallways, past flickering lights and metal walls that rattled with every engine hum. When he reached Bay 12, 2 security officers stood outside. One of them, a tall woman with a scar down her chin, looked at him with disgust. "She's filthy," the guard said, spitting on the floor. "Captain wants her cleaned before inspection." "She?" Jace asked, confused. They didn't answer. They only stepped aside and unlocked the door with a loud clang. It slid open slowly, revealing a small chamber filled with steam, metal pipes, and strange smells. Inside the room was a cage, and inside the cage was her Dot. She was curled up on the floor, covered in layers of dried mud, dust, and what looked like crushed ash. Her silver-white hair was tangled and sticky. He couldn't even see her face, but something was odd. Beneath the dirt, he saw a soft glow dim, like light behind fogged glass. He stepped forward. "She dangerous?" he asked. "She glows?" The scarred guard said, laughing, "That's all we know. She hasn't said a word since we picked her up from that dust moon." They left and locked the door behind him. Jay stood alone now, heart pounding, staring at the creature in the cage. He didn't know why, but something inside told him to kneel. Slowly, carefully, he opened the cage and pulled out a warm cloth from his kit. He dipped it into the nearby wash bucket. The girl flinched when the water hit her skin. "It's okay," he whispered. "I won't hurt you." He wiped her shoulder. The grime came off like dry paint, and what appeared beneath made him freeze. Her skin wasn't just glowing. It shimmered, almost like liquid crystal. Soft pulses of blue and violet ran beneath it, like energy flowing under glass. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. She turned her face toward him. She had large, silver eyes, shaped like teardrops and filled with fear. Her lips parted, but no sound came. She looked weak, as if the dirt and pain had pressed the life out of her. Jace kept cleaning, gently now, avoiding her eyes. He cleaned her arms, her neck, the back of her shoulders. Each spot revealed more light beneath the filth. It wasn't just skin, it looked alive, moving with breath and thought. "Are you?" he asked softly. She didn't answer. But when he wiped her chest plate, she suddenly leaned forward. "Help," she whispered. The word was broken, dry, like it hadn't been used in years. Jace froze. "Did you just talk?" She nodded once, then slumped back, exhausted. Footsteps echoed. Outside, the guards were coming back. His heart jumped. He quickly reached into his bag, pulled out a clean sheet, and covered her body. Her glow faded slightly under the cloth. The door opened with a loud buzz. The scarred guard walked in and sniffed. "What's that smell?" "Just cleaning foam," Jace lied, holding up the bottle. The guard looked at the girl, then at Jace. "She say anything?" "No," Jace replied. The guard sneered. "Good, don't talk to it. It's property." Then she walked out again. As the door closed behind her, Jace looked down at the glowing girl beneath the sheet. She was shaking slightly. Not from cold, but from fear. He made a decision. He pulled the blanket higher, tucking her in. He reached for another wet cloth and began again, slower this time, careful not to wake her too fast. He wanted to know who she was, where she came from, why she glowed, but most of all, he wanted to keep her safe. As he wiped the last bit of dirt from her cheek, Her light grew just a little stronger. Her skin shimmered like starlight trapped in a fragile shell. Then, the overhead alarm blared. Containment breach detected, Bay 12. The lights flickered. The floor trembled. Jace looked at the girl. She looked at him, and then her body began to glow brighter. Asterisk first rinse. First secrets. The alarm kept ringing, sharp and loud, but Jace didn't run. He stood frozen beside the glowing girl, staring at the light that now pulsed from her skin like a living signal. Red warning lights flashed across the room, mixing with her blue shimmer, painting the walls in strange colors. Then, just as suddenly, the alarm went silent. The room fell into thick silence. Jace heard nothing but her soft breathing. He looked at the door, but no one came. Maybe the system glitched. Maybe someone shut it off on purpose. Either way, he knew he didn't have much time. He reached for a small wash hose and twisted the valve. Warm water sprayed from the nozzle. He aimed it gently over her arms and shoulders, letting it wash away more of the dried filth that hid her true form. Her glow grew stronger with every drop. He watched, stunned, as her body began to reveal itself, not in a vulgar way, but in a strange, beautiful transformation. Her skin wasn't just glowing now, it looked like glass filled with stars. Tiny lights moved beneath the surface, pulsing in rhythm with her breath. Suddenly, she opened her eyes wide. "You shouldn't be doing this," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Why not?" he asked, wiping her collarbone clean. "They'll kill you if they know what I am?" He paused. "Then what are you?" She didn't answer. She only looked down at her arms, watching her own glow flicker and change like living code. "My name's Brill," she said after a moment. "I come from a planet where light is power. They captured me and turned my glow into energy for their machines. Every day, they made me dim. I thought I would die in the dark." Jace swallowed hard. Her words felt heavy. "Why didn't you fight back?" "I tried," she said, "but they fed me chemicals that blocked my glow. They used water to weaken me." Jace pulled his hand back. "Wait, this water? Am I hurting you?" Brill looked up at him, her eyes shining. "No, this water is clean, real. It reminds my body what it used to be." Jace continued rinsing her back, this time with more care. As the dirt slid away, new patterns of color danced across her skin, golden veins of light, shifting like waves. Then Brill whispered, "You have to get me out of here." He stopped. "Where would we go? This ship has nowhere safe." She pointed to a scar on her leg. It looked like a burn, but with tiny circuits around it. "This is a tracker. I know how to short it, but I need full light. Your help made me stronger." Jace stared at her. She didn't look dangerous. She looked broken, scared, and too bright for a world like his. But something about her voice, something inside him, made him nod. "I'll help you," he said. A soft knock at the door made him jump. Threw the cloth over her body again and moved to the corner, pretending to scrub the floor. The door hissed open. This time it wasn't the scarred guard. A new figure walked in, tall, wearing an officer's coat with shiny black gloves. His eyes were sharp and his voice calm. "Cleaner," the man said. "Has the specimen spoken?" Jace shook his head. "No, sir." The officer walked toward the cage. Brill didn't move. Her glow dimmed under the cloth. "She's responding to the water," the man said, touching the empty bucket. "Interesting. Clean her thoroughly." "We have. Buyers arriving tomorrow. They'll want her shining." He turned and walked out without another word. Jace exhaled. Heart-pounding. Buyers. That word made his blood run cold. He turned back to Brill. She was sitting up now, pulling the wet cloth from her shoulders. "They're selling me," she said. Her voice hollow. "Not if I get to you first," he said, grabbing a towel. "Tell me what you need." She leaned forward, the light in her chest pulsing with urgency. I need full contact with pure water, no chemicals. I need a charge line and privacy for 10 minutes. Then I can break the tracker, Jace thought fast. There was a backup sanitation room near the fuel bay. It had older systems, no cameras, and a private rinse chamber. I know a place, he said, helping her to her feet. She wobbled. He caught her dot as she leaned on him. Her light spilled across his shirt, making his chest glow faintly in return. She looked up at him with wide eyes. You're absorbing it, she said. What? My light ... it's flowing into you. They stared at each other, confused and for a second, silent. Then the hallway lights blinked again. Someone was coming. Hold on, Jace whispered, wrapping her in a clean towel. We move now or we lose everything. Glimmer in the dark passage. The hallway lights blinked once, then died. Everything sank into darkness. Jace stopped breathing for a second. The corridor ahead stretched like a tunnel of shadows. No power, no voices, just the sound of metal groaning. Softly under the weight of the ship. Somewhere deep in the walls, backup generators hummed faintly, but nothing brightened the path. Nothing. Except her. Brill's body gave off a soft blue glow, calm and steady now, enough to paint the metal. Walls in light. Her bare feet touched the cold floor. She walked beside Jace, wrapped in a thin towel, her steps slow but sure. Even hurt, even hunted, she looked like a walking star. This way, Jace whispered, guiding her toward the maintenance ladder. They passed crates and coolant pipes, ducked under loose cables, and stepped over empty ration boxes. The air smelled like dust and old heat. Suddenly, a sound, clink metal on metal. Brill grabbed his arm. Her glow dimmed instinctively. They pressed into the shadows. A drone passed by. Small, round, armed with a single lens that scanned the dark. It paused where they had just walked. For a terrifying moment, Jace thought it would sense the leftover light, but the drone blinked twice and floated away. Brill exhaled slowly. Her hand stayed on Jace's arm a little longer than needed. He didn't mind. Where are we going? She asked in a low voice. There's an old rinse chamber near the engine deck, he said. They haven't used it in years. No cameras. Just water and rust. Perfect, she whispered, her glow brightening again. They moved quickly now. Jace knew every pipe, every shortcut, every broken panel in this old ship. He'd worked here for 5 years, mostly ignored, mostly forgotten. But tonight, that invisibility made him powerful. As they approached the chamber, Brill stumbled. He caught her. Arms around her waist. Her skin felt warm, too warm. The glow around her flickered and sparked. What's wrong? He asked. My light. It's rising too fast, she whispered. I haven't felt this much energy in a long time. Is that bad? It's single quotes S. dangerous. If I overload without grounding, I could burn through the deck. Jace's eyes widened. Let's get you inside now. He punched the code into the side panel. The door creaked open. Inside, the old rinse chamber looked like a forgotten bathhouse. Tiled walls, rusted drains, cracked faucets. A thick film of dust covered the floors, but the water still worked. He turned the valve. A slow stream poured from the overhead pipe, clear, cold, clean. Brill stepped under the stream. The water hit her skin, and everything changed. Light exploded from her body, not in a flash, but in waves. Purple, gold, blue, all racing under her skin like lightning across the sky. Jace stepped back, shielding his eyes. Her whole body seemed to hum with energy. Brill stood tall now, no longer weak, no longer trembling. The towel slipped to the floor. Her hair floated around her head, strands lit like fiber optic cables. The lights on her body moved in rhythm, like music only she could hear. Jace couldn't speak. She was something out of myth, out of science, out of dreams. He had watched many things in his life, but never had he uncovered something so alive. Then, she opened her eyes. They glowed like twin stars. "The tracker," she said, reaching down to the scar on her leg. "I'm going to burn it out." She placed her fingers over the circuit. A sharp spark jumped from her skin to the tracker, and smoke rose. A crack formed in the metal. Jace moved forward. "Won't that hurt you?" She smiled, fierce and soft at the same time. "I'm used to pain." The tracker popped. It let out a sharp buzz, then died. Brill sank to her knees. Jace rushed forward, catching her before she fell. "I'm fine," she whispered. "Just light drunk." He lowered her gently to the floor, holding her in his lap. The glow from her skin pulsed gently, slower now, but still beautiful. Then, above them, a soft click. A hidden security camera in the ceiling. Long thought dead turned its lens toward them and blinked red. Jace's heart dropped. "They found us," he whispered. Brill opened her eyes and smiled faintly. "Then we run again," she said, her voice filled with fire. Asterisk soap and sparks. The rinse chamber door slammed behind them, and the red light from the hidden camera began flashing in warning. Somewhere above, gears clicked and alarms quietly armed themselves, like predators waking up from sleep. Jace pulled Brill to her feet. "We can't go back the way we came," he said, scanning the walls. "If the camera's active, that hall is locked down already." Brill nodded, swaying slightly, still light drunk from burning out the tracker. Her glow shimmered slower now, like fireflies underwater. But even weak, she was dazzling. "There's a maintenance pipe behind that wall," Jay said, pointing to a grime-covered panel. "I used it once when the showers overflowed. It connects to the detergent tubes and empties near the recycling system. Is it safe?" Brill asked. "No," he said, grabbing a wrench, "but it's the only shot." He tore off the metal plate. Behind it, a narrow crawl space opened, coated in soapy residue and smelling of burnt plastic. It looked barely big enough for one person. Jace turned to her. "You'll have to go first." She nodded without fear. She climbed into the tight passage, hands slipping slightly from the slick walls. Her body lit the space like a moving lantern. Jace followed close behind, dragging their supply bag with one hand and guiding himself with the other. The inside of the detergent pipe was a strange world. The walls were smooth, curved, and covered in foam bubbles that still clung from earlier washes. Every few seconds, the walls buzzed with static electricity. Then it began. A low hum built beneath them. The automatic flush cycle was starting. "They're trying to wash us out," Jace hissed. "Let me go first," Brill said, voice tense. "No, if the system starts dumping soap solution, it'll burn your skin." She looked back, eyes glowing. "Harder now. I am energy, Jace. Let me take it." He hesitated, then nodded. The hum turned to a roar. Soapy water surged from a pipe ahead, hot and fast. Brill lifted her hand, and her glow intensified, flickering gold now. The water hit her, but instead of throwing her back, it split around her light like a shield. Foam splashed the walls, steaming and sizzling, but never touching her skin. Jace watched, stunned. Her body pulsed, her veins glowing brighter as if feeding off the pressure. Sparks crackled from her fingertips. Steam swirled in glowing rings around her head. Then, a loud crack. The pipe above them split from heat and pressure. A live wire broke loose and swung down, hissing with electricity. "Look out!" Jace shouted, but Brill didn't flinch. She raised her arm, and the wire snapped against her palm. Instead of shocking her, it connected her skin, drank the energy like thirst meeting water. Her eyes widened. Her whole body flashed silver for a second. "I remember now," she whispered. "This is what I used to feel like. You're absorbing it? Jace asked. I'm becoming whole again. The water slowed. The flush cycle ended. Together they crawled forward until the pipe widened into a small exit hatch. Jace kicked it open, and they dropped down into a hidden access room, old, unused, and silent. They lay there on the cold metal floor, breathing hard. Jace sat up and looked at her. The foam and grime were gone. Her skin gleamed like a mirror of light. The marks on her legs were healing. Even her eyes looked sharper now, more focused. You're stronger, he said. I'm not hiding anymore, she replied, sitting up. They didn't speak for a moment. Then Brill leaned closer. You didn't have to come with me, she said softly. They'll call you a traitor now. He looked her in the eyes. Then I'll be a traitor, he said, but not to you. Just then, the wall screen lit up. Grainy footage showed the captain standing on the auction floor. Behind him, holopanels displayed Brill's glowing image, frozen from when she burned the tracker. A crowd of alien buyers stood below, bidding already beginning. Jace clenched his fists. They're selling you tonight. Brill's glow dimmed. Then we take the auction down. Her light rose. Again, brighter, sharper, no longer afraid. Jace stood and held out his hand. Let's give them a show they'll never forget. The auction floor, the cargo bay, had never been this loud before. Alien merchants filled the gallery above the auction floor, talking in a dozen different tongues. Some wore long black robes, their faces hidden. Others wore suits wired with breathing tubes or sat on floating chairs, veins pulsing under translucent skin. All of them had one thing in common: eyes locked on the glowing image flickering on the center screen. Brille. Frozen mid-step. Her skin lit like a galaxy, her hands raised as if casting light from her body. The picture was taken from the hidden rinse cam moments before the power surge. This specimen, the captain shouted from the auction platform, generates bioenergy from light and electricity. Imagine the power you could harvest. A ripple moved through the crowd. Several bidders raised electronic paddles. Numbers began climbing on the screen. 40,000 credits, 55, 60. Jace watched it all from behind a broken panel in the upper rafters. He gritted his teeth. Beside him, Brill stood hidden in the dark, her glow reduced to a faint flicker. Her hands trembled, not with fear, but with rage. They're buying me like cargo, she whispered. They think they already own you, Jace said, tightening the strap on the old control pack he'd found in storage. Then let's remind them I belong to no one. She stepped forward. Down on the floor, the captain smiled as the numbers reached 90,000 credits. Once we complete the transfer, she will be yours, he said to the highest bidder, a reptilian noble with gold-plated armor. And then the lights exploded. Every panel on the wall blew open with a loud pop. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The holoscreens blinked and died. All at once, the chamber filled with blinding, blue-white radiance. From above, Brill descended, gliding slowly, her feet not quite touching the floor. Her body blazed like a living star, too bright to look at. The crowd gasped. Some dropped their paddles. A few screamed. Her tracker was deactivated, a voice shouted. She's loose. The captain reached for his pulse gun, but Jace was already there. He dropped from the rafters and tackled the man to the ground. The gun slid across the floor. Jace picked it up and aimed it straight at the security drone flying overhead. He fired once. The drone sparked and fell. Get out, he shouted to the crowd. Unless you want to see what real light looks like. Brill's body pulsed, her skin now flickering between violet and gold. She raised one hand, and the lights around the auction floor bent toward her, pulled by invisible threads. A merchant raised a weapon. Brill flicked her fingers, his weapon melted in his hand. Jace grabbed the mic from the captain's collar and turned it on. Attention all stations, he said. This auction is over. The girl you tried to sell is not a product. She's not a battery. She's not yours. Brill stepped beside him, her voice echoing across the bay. I am not property, she said, and anyone who tries to claim me will face the light. Several guards rushed toward them. Brill raised her hands, and a wall of pure energy burst from her skin, pushing them back like waves hitting stone. The crowd panicked. Merchants ran for the exits. Lights shattered overhead. The ceiling cracked from the force of her power. Jace turned to her. We have to move before backup gets here. I'll clear the path, she said. She raised her hands and sent a beam of light shooting down the central corridor, melting doors and frying locks. The way to the pod bay was now open. Behind them, sirens started again. The captain groaned on the floor. Jace stood over him. You made one mistake, he said, tossing the broken control pack at his feet. You underestimated the janitor. Then he ran. Brill followed, her glow leaving trails in the air behind them. They dashed through the ruined hall, light flickering from broken screens, the ground hot beneath their feet. Every camera they passed sparked and shorted out. Every door had slid open on its own, responding to the pulse of her power dot and behind them, the entire auction deck burned with the afterglow of freedom. Asterisk run through liquid light, the floor trembled with the sound of pursuit. Heavy boots slammed against metal walkways. Warning sirens screamed in every hallway. Overhead speakers barked orders in sharp tones. Target is moving toward pod bay, key intercept immediately. Jace didn't look back. He just ran, his boots hitting the floor hard. Sweat dripping down his face, one hand gripping Brill's wrist as he pulled her behind him. But she wasn't slowing him down. In fact, she was speeding him up her. Bare feet glided across the floor without sound, her glow flashing like lightning at every turn. The ship's emergency lights cast everything in a deep red, but Brill's golden white shimmer lit the corridors like a second sun. Pipes hissed. Doors slammed shut behind them. Drones tried to rise from the ceiling, but she shorted each one with a flick of her fingers. Still, she was weakening. Jace felt it every time she staggered, every time her fingers trembled when she let go of another spark. Her body wasn't designed for combat. She wasn't a weapon. She was light trying to survive in a world of steel and shadows. We're almost there, he shouted. Ahead. The corridor opened to a sky bridge, a narrow tunnel of glass and steel that connected the cargo deck to the escape pod bay. Through the thick glass walls, they could see the stars outside, shining like diamonds in black velvet. Brill stopped. Jace turned. What's wrong? She placed a hand against the glass wall. I've never seen space like this. Not while free. Her glow pulsed with warmth, not power. Just peace. But it only lasted a second. Gunfire erupted from behind. A squad of guards had caught up. Plasma bolts screamed past them, one slamming into the wall, throwing sparks across the floor. Jace pulled Brill down. We can't stop now. She nodded and stood out as they ran. Brill turned and raised both hands. A wave of energy exploded from her body, not as a weapon, but as a trail of light. A blinding path stretched across the bridge behind them, hitting the guards like a wall of molten glass. Their guns exploded in their hands. Their visors cracked. Some dropped to their knees, blinded and dazed, but the effort took its toll. Brill fell to her knees mid-run, gasping for breath. Her light dimmed sharply. I can't, she whispered, her voice hoarse. I'm burning too fast. Jace didn't hesitate. He scooped her into his arms and ran. Her body pressed against his chest, still glowing faintly, skin fever hot. She wasn't heavy, but he felt the weight of everything in her. Behind them, another alarm began, this one deeper, more urgent. They're starting the autolock. Jace shouted. They're going to seal the pod bay. He sprinted down the final corridor. The walls around the pod bay began to close, thick metal doors grinding downward, trying to trap them in the ship forever. Jace reached the control panel beside the last pod. Dead. No lights. No access. He slammed his fist on it. Come on, come on. Brill raised her weak hand. Her palm barely touched the panel. A thin line of golden light crawled from her fingers into the system. The panel blinked. Then it came to life. Pod doors slid open with a hiss. Jace carried her inside and placed her in the padded seat. He tapped the launch button. A countdown appeared, launch in 20 seconds. He turned to leave. Her hand grabbed his arm. You're not staying behind, she said, her eyes glowing, weak again but firm. I'll hold them off. No, she whispered. You came this far. You saved me. Now stay. He looked into her eyes. And he stayed. The pod shook as clamps released. Outside, the final doors slammed shut, but too late. They were already off the track, falling forward, pulled by the quiet breath of vacuum into space. Through the round window, Jace saw the ship grow smaller. Inside the pod, the lights flickered. Then her hand touched his, and the glow returned, just enough to warm the small chamber with soft, pulsing peace. Jace exhaled. We made it. Brill leaned her head against his shoulder. Not yet, she said quietly, but almost. New dawn beyond the portals. The escape pod drifted into the black silent, weightless, surrounded by stars. Inside, only the hum of recycled air and the steady blink of the navigation light kept time. Jace sat beside Brill, holding her hand gently, watching as the glow beneath her skin slowly began to pulse again. She hadn't spoken in minutes. The energy she'd spent during the escape had drained her. Even now, her body flickered like a dying flame, but not gone, not finished, resting, rebuilding, glowing faintly with the promise of survival. Jace leaned over the cracked interface screen. The autopilot had locked in a destination, a planet with breathable air, untouched by war, marked unregistered and unclaimed. A hidden system near the edge of explored space. He smiled. No more cargo bays, he said softly. No more scanners, auctions, wires. Just sky, just quiet. Brill stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, silver and soft, and for the first time they looked calm. You picked the planet? She asked. The pod did, he said, but I think it knew what we needed. She sat up, weak but smiling. Her glow brightened, filling the pod's walls with soft golden light. She leaned forward, her fingers resting on the viewport, outside. A sun was rising, not harsh like the freighter's emergency lamps. This light was gentle, spilling across the curve, a blue and green world below. Its warmth reached through the glass. Her skin responded, glowing in return. Brill closed her eyes. I feel full again, she whispered, like I'm waking up. Jace watched her, quiet. Every second with her felt like a step away from who he used to be. He wasn't just the ship's cleaner anymore. He wasn't the invisible worker. He was the man who ran through sirens and sparks for a girl made of light. He cleared his throat. Once we land, there's no going back. We'll be off-grid, no credits, no protection. She looked at him, the glow in her chest pulsing with quiet strength. Then we start from zero, she said. We build a home where no one owns anyone, where light belongs to the sky, not machines. Jace nodded. Together. The pod began its descent. The outer hull heated as they passed through the new world's atmosphere. Brill leaned her head on his shoulder again, but this time not from exhaustion, just closeness. Her hand found his and didn't let go. Clouds streaked past the window. Mountains rose beneath them. Forests shimmered with golden leaves. Rivers like glowing ribbons twisted across the land. Everything looked untouched, wild, free, alive. A soft beep signaled final approach. Jace gripped the manual controls and smiled. Brace for landing. he whispered. They touched down in a soft field of glowing moss, surrounded by hills and a sky already fading into dusk. When the hatch opened, warm wind rushed in carrying the scent of something real, something clean. Brill stepped out first. Her feet touched the earth, and her body responded, light blooming across her skin in ripples as if the planet itself welcomed her. Jace followed, blinking at the open space, the soft horizon. They stood together, two strangers with nothing but a stolen pod, a handful of supplies, and a promise neither had spoken aloud, but both felt in their bones that this was their start, that no one would dim her again. And that a janitor and a glowing girl had rewritten their story not by running, but by choosing each other. As the stars rose above the new world, Brill reached out and touched his chest. "You shine too now," she said softly, "not with light, but with choice." Jace smiled, taking her hand. Then they walked forward into the wild unknown. Together.